In June of 2025, American stealth bombers cut through the night sky over the Middle East. They were executing a coordinated cyberkinetic operation. Digital weapons successfully blinded Iranian air defense systems, clearing the airspace for a direct bombing run on the heavily fortified nuclear facility at Natanz, as well as a secondary site at Fordo. But instead of forcing a surrender, the attack triggered an immediate countermove. By 2026, satellite intelligence revealed that Iran had relocated thousands of centrifuges deep into a subterranean bunker known as Pickaxe Mountain, burying their nuclear program entirely beyond the reach of aerial bombs. This outcome mirrors a cycle spanning 7 decades. Since 1953, American efforts to shift the geopolitical landscape in Iran have consistently produced results that contradict their stated goals. The cycle began with oil. In the early 1950s, Prime Minister Mohammad Mosaddegh nationalized Iran's vast petroleum reserves, taking control from foreign corporations. This sparked panic in London. Unable to secure American support initially, British officials eventually convinced President Dwight Eisenhower to authorize the CIA to engineer a covert coup. On August 19, 1953, armored military units besieged Mossadegh's residence. The resulting street battles left roughly 300 citizens dead and successfully overthrew the elected government. In his place, the United States helped restore the Shah, who consolidated his power using a brutal secret police force known as Savak. This image shows the massive scale of the Abadan oil refinery. The immediate payoff for the West was a new agreement that transferred 40% of Iran's oil fields to an American corporate consortium. The coup secured immediate access to oil, but it systematically dismantled Iran's secular democratic opposition. By eliminating constitutional checks and banning political parties, the state forced dissent into the only network it could not easily close, the mosques. By the late 1970s, the consequences of that centralization materialized. Decades of autocratic rule, combined with massive spending on weaponry and severe human rights abuses, led to a general uprising that erupted into the streets. The protests escalated into a full-scale Islamic Revolution. By early 1979, the Shah fled the country, leaving a power vacuum quickly filled by Ayatollah Khomeini. Looking at this timeline of 1979, the diplomatic breakdown moves fast. The breaking point arrived in October, when the United States granted the deposed Shah asylum in America for medical treatment. Fearing a second American-sponsored counter-coup, Iranian student militants responded in November by scaling the walls of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, taking dozens of American employees hostage and demanding the Shah's extradition. The 1953 intervention to secure a client state had directly forged a new, radically anti-American Islamic society, transforming a former regional pillar into an existential adversary. To break the ensuing standoff, President Jimmy Carter authorized Operation Eagle Claw on April 24, 1980, a highly complex military rescue operation. The plan began at sea. 8 RH-53D helicopters launched from the deck of the USS Nimitz in the Arabian Sea, embarking on a 600-mile journey into hostile territory. They were scheduled to rendezvous with transport aircraft at a remote staging ground in the Iranian desert, Desert 1. But en route, a ferocious Haboob sandstorm caused extreme visibility issues and equipment damage, forcing commanders to abort the mission. Amidst the chaotic scramble of preparing to retreat, one of the helicopters tragically collided with a fully loaded fuel transport plane. The collision killed 8 American servicemen and left their charred aircraft abandoned in the sand. For the United States, it was a public humiliation, exposing the limits of conventional special operations. For the Iranian regime, surviving a direct attack from a superpower provided undeniable propaganda, solidifying a narrative of divine protection. That survivalist mindset, forged during the revolution and the aborted rescue attempt, drove Iranian military strategy for the next 4 decades, pushing the regime toward unconventional weapons and deep underground infrastructure. Which brings us back to the 12-day war of June 2025. Over 70 years, American tactics evolved from the covert bribes of the 50s to the stealth bombers and synchronized cyber warfare of today. Yet, despite deploying some of the most advanced military technology in history to strike Fordow and Natanz, the operation failed to permanently break the regime's capabilities. Instead, Iran immediately accelerated construction on the Pickaxe Mountain project, burying their newest generation of centrifuges so deep into the earth that they are physically immune to traditional aerial bombardment. Escalating from secret agents in 1953 to special forces in 1980 to cyberkinetic warfare in 2025 did not force Tehran to capitulate. It only accelerated their timeline to becoming a nuclear fortress. For 70 years, domestic planners in Washington have justified these interventions as tactical necessities, first to secure natural resources, then to stop nuclear proliferation. But these plans often overlook a consistent reaction, that external friction has almost always generated internal heat. Applying external force rarely engineers compliance. Instead, it consistently engineers a more resilient, highly radicalized opposition.